We're looking at the January 2017 Level 1 Excel question. I've worked this through to 2E, where I'm just going to start 2E. I've just finished 2E rather. I'm going to now go through the process of creating a chart to display the 5 costs for each number of sets. Now, when we want to select the data for a chart, obviously we need to select a text field or text column, something that's going to describe what the numbers are. And this wants the 5 costs. So we've got this area here called costs, and we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 costs, and we've got 3 columns. Now these 3 columns represent the number of sets. So there's a 200, a 300, and a 500. Now the trouble you're going to have here is, I'll just demonstrate this. If I select this, that's got all the data I need. But I also want some way of putting these in, and I'll show you why. If I just do this, create a chart as usual. So we're going to go to Insert. The question doesn't ask us to do percentages or a pie chart, so it's going to be a bar chart or column chart. And I'm going to create that chart. So I'm going to just move this here from now. We'll move that onto another sheet in a bit. So we can see we've got our cover design fees, and the 3 values are all 50, so that's right. Our stationery, those are all right, and so on. And we go printing, draft preparation, and binding. So we've got a blue, a red, and a green column representing each of the different card types or numbers of sets. Now, because I didn't include these values in, this has come up saying Series 1, Series 2, Series 3. So, okay, let's get rid of this and fix that. So we'll try selecting all of this again. And this time I'm going to hold down Control and select these 3. And let's see what happens when I do my chart now. So, well, that's not helpful at all. That's come up now with 6 columns for the cover design fees, 3 for the stationery, and a 6 series. So that's really confusing. That's not what we're after at all. So we'll get rid of that, and we'll try a different way. So let's try, okay, what about if we select that and then that? Let's see what happens then. We'll insert column. Well, again, that's not very helpful. We've got the values. I can see the values there, but instead of having a description, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we've still got this series problem. The reason we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is because we didn't include any. Let me get rid of that. We didn't include any text description. These are numbers and these are numbers. So what we might have to do in this case is, or what we'd need to do in this case is, we would select enough to get the basic chart, which was, if we go back, was include the text and the values. We're not going to worry about these 200, 300, and 500 for the minute. I'm going to insert my chart again. And remember, we need to move this over to a new sheet. So we can either do that clicking on there or right clicking on there and selecting Move Chart. We want to select New Sheet from there. We don't want to just move it to a different sheet. We want to create a sheet for it. And we're going to call this Costs Chart. Okay, so we've got a chart. It's almost there. We've got a Series 1, Series 2, and 3. Now we can't edit these directly. We can't just right click and edit. There's no option to edit there. We can't double click on it and change it that way. So what we need to do is we need to look at the data we're using to get these values. To change or access the underlying data for your charts, you can right click on the chart and use this Select Data option. And this, this can be look very confusing. It's not actually that confusing. At the top, it tells us where we get our data from. So this one says Sheet 1, A9. It's got the dollars in there, so they're absolute referencing. So A9 to D13. So that just describes that range there. That's where we're getting our data from for the chart data. Our horizontal axis labels, it's picked those up because we had this text thing here. It's included those. But where we're falling over is we've got series 1, 2 and 3 because Excel's got no way of knowing what we want to call those. So what we have to do in this case is manually edit these. So I'm going to go to series 1, edit. Now I'm going to go back to the sheet where the data was, sheet 1. And how do I want to describe each of these columns? So this column here is the 5 costs, cover, design fees, stationery, etc. for the 200 sets. So I'm going to put type 200 in there. And now that's updated there, and also you can see down here it's updated as well. Okay, so we could go through and just manually change those. Alternatively, what we could do is, I'm going to do it for series 2 now, is we could edit that, and instead of typing a value in, we can just click on the sheet and click on the cell that's got the value we want to use. So if I click on the cell that's got 300, it now says sheet 1 C4. So it's now going to get that information from that cell. The advantage of doing it like that is if you've got, in the real world, if you've got a sheet that may be updated, these values could potentially change. I'm going to go back and change this one as well. They could change, and doing it this way actually makes it reflect that change. So I've updated them all now. OK. And then I'm going to click on OK. And you can see at the bottom it's got 200, 300 and 500. Now, these tables are all dynamic. So if the data changes, the table will change. I'm going to go back to my sheet 1. And say, for example, if I changed the cover design fees have gone up, they're now £150 for the 200 set. So I've updated the 50 there to 150. Go back to my chart and you'll see it updates that first column there for the 200s. Okay. I'll just edit that back to 50. When I set the titles, I actually pointed it to the cell that has these values. So again, if we change this, I'm going to say, well, actually, we're going to have 250 in this set instead of 200. When I go back to my chart, this is now updated here for me. I don't have to go in and manually type it. So it's usually better to just point at the cell rather than type a value, but sometimes you might need to do that. For instance, a scenario in the real world might be that your company's finance department talks about quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3 and quarter 4. You may work in retail or something like that, and you have a winter, spring, summer and autumn division of the year, or you might have terms or something like that. Okay, so that's the sort of situation where you might need to manually change them.